Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from today. Thank you for joining us for this information session on the Secure project and the Aspirin request for proposals opportunity. My name is Petra Proctor. I'm a senior program manager, and I'm speaking on behalf of Concept Foundation. We're very pleased to have such a strong representation of manufacturers with us today. This really reflects the importance of collaboration in advancing maternal health access. Before we begin, I'm going to run through our agenda and the objectives of our session today. And in the meantime, I'm just going to check on the slides because I think we're projecting the slides for tomorrow's info session. So I will just reshuffle these and in the meantime, start walking you through the agenda. Then I will be handing over to my colleague Alessandra Tomasini, who is our responsible pharmacist at Concept Foundation and senior technical lead for this project. And I'm just going to flag to Caroline, who's on our team, that we just need to load up the different slide deck, the one for Aspirin for the session today, so we can make sure we're showing you guys the right information. And maybe while we're doing that, we'll hand over to Alessandra, who will give us our opening remarks, and then we'll come back to the slides. So I'll hand over to Alessandra.
Thank you, Petra. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. On behalf of Concept Foundation, CHAI, and our Supreme Security partners, it's a real pleasure to welcome such a strong group of manufacturers to this information section. Your presence today is critical and very intentional, because ultimately, the success of this initiative hinges not only on innovation or policy, but on the ability to manufacture and deliver quality-assured products at scale, sustainability, and affordability. Let me start by framing why this matters. Despite decades of progress in maternal and newborn health, the global burden remains unacceptably high. Each year, nearly 300,000 women die from complications related to pregnancy and childbirth, alongside millions of newborn deaths or stillbirths. The vast majority of occurring in low and middle-income countries. Among the leading causes of these deaths are conditions we know how to prevent and treat, particularly preeclampsia and maternal anemia. Preeclampsia alone is responsible for approximately 46,000 maternal deaths and over 500,000 neonatal deaths and stillbirths every year. And yet, the tools to prevent and manage these conditions are often underused, inconsistently available, or not fit for purpose in settings where they are needed most. This is where you come in. From a manufacturer's perspective, it's not simply a public health challenge, it is fundamentally a market challenge. A market where demand exists, but is fragmented. Guidance exists, but is inconsistently implemented. Products exist, but are not always quality assured, accessible, or affordable at scale. And where in some cases the absence of right formulations, the right stability profiles, or the right pricing models directly translates into preventable death. The Secure project was designed specifically to address these gaps. Over the next 4 years, Secure, an Unitaid-funded multi-partner initiative, will work across the entire ecosystem to unlock access to essential maternal health products. This includes generating evidence, supporting country adoption, shaping demand, and critically working directly with manufacturers to overcome supply-side barriers. Our focus is not only on innovation, but on ensuring that proven, life-saving interventions actually reach the women who need them. On such intervention, and the focus of today's discussion is low-dose aspirins for the prevention of preeclampsia. We know that low-dose aspirin is safe, cost-effective, and can significantly reduce the risk of preeclampsia, preterm birth, and even infant death. Yet, in many low and middle-income country settings, its use remains limited. Why? Because even for a product as well known as aspirin, there are still critical gaps in appropriate formulation and dosing clarity, inconsistent quality assurance, in regulatory alignment. There is an echo. Can you hear me well, Petra?
Yes, yes, I can hear you well.
In regulatory alignment and market readiness, and importantly, in reliable, affordable supply tailored to low and middle income conditions, including climatic requirements. So today's sections and the RFP we are launching is not about introducing a new molecule. It is about something equally important, getting the basics right at scale for the populations that need it most. And we are very deliberately looking for partners who share that ambition. What we are offering through Secure is not transactional procurement exercise. It's a collaborative model, one that combines technical assistance across product development, regulatory strategy, and quality system. It's also marketing intelligence and country insight to inform our commercial decisions, and potentially financial support linked to key milestones to help the risk investment. In return, we are looking for manufacturers who are ready to engage in a long-term partnership with a clear commitment to quality assured production, sustainable and equitable pricing, and reliable supply to low and middle income countries' markets. Because at the end of the day, access is not achieved through one actor alone. It requires alignment across the entire value chain, from R&D and manufacturing through regulation and procurement, all the way to the point of care. And if we get that alignment right, the impact is substantial. Expanding access to interventions like low-dose aspirin is not just about improving clinical outcomes. It's about reducing strain on health systems, avoiding costly implications, and creating healthier, more productive societies. From a manufacturer perspective, this is also about building sustainable markets, ones that are predictable, scalable, and aligned with global health priorities. So today is really the starting point of that conversation. Over the next hour, we will walk you through the broader Secure initiative, the specifics of the RFP for low-dose aspirin, and collaboration would look like in practice, and how your organization can engage in this opportunity. We strongly encourage you about this. It's not just as bid, but also as a strategic partnership opportunity, one where your capabilities can directly contribute to saving lives at scale. Thank you again for your time and for your interest in this work. We look forward to the discussion. Thank you all. Thank you, Petra.
Thank you so much, Alessandra, for those excellent opening remarks. Caroline, can I ask you to advance to the next slide? And wonderful, thank you. So just some quick housekeeping before we jump in. We have a Q&A function when we encourage all attendees to post their questions there. Once we've gone through our presentation, if we have time, we will do our best to answer those questions question by question. I think my colleague Caroline has already encouraged those who are willing to introduce themselves in the chat. There's no obligation to do this, but if you wish to, please do so. Um, as already mentioned in the communications about this information session, we will be posting the recording on the RFP webpage on the Concept Foundation website. We'll post about this on LinkedIn. And we will also be, I'll reiterate this later, but we will also be posting a Q&A document that will be anonymizing and summarizing all questions that we have received regarding this request for proposals and the project to ensure that we provide the most transparent and consistent amount of information for all potential manufacturing partners. So moving forward, we've already been through the opening remarks. Next, I'll be giving a quick overview of Concept Foundation, then the Supreme Secure project. And as I mentioned, we'll then walk through the request for proposals and arrive at an overall timeline and key dates. You can go to the next slide, Caroline. Thank you. Another thing I'll quickly mention is as we're using PowerPoint Live, you should be able to flick through to this slide deck. You'll see some arrows at the bottom of your screen. Just remember that if you're flicking forward or backwards and want to spend some more time on a particular slide, there is a lot of text on each slide, so we encourage you to do that. But just bear in mind that you can always sync back to myself, the presenter, to bring yourself back to the slide that I will be on. Okay, so a quick introduction to Concept Foundation for those of you who don't know us. And Concept Foundation, we're leading this particular work stream under the Supreme Secure project, which is improving access to quality assured, affordable preeclampsia medicines. We are a not-for-profit organization, and we have offices in Thailand and Switzerland, but we also operate globally. And we are currently in the process of opening up a hub in Nairobi, Kenya. As I mentioned, we're a not-for-profit organization, and our primary focus is to improve access to quality assured, affordable sexual and reproductive health medicines in low and middle income countries. So we primarily work across abortion, contraception, and maternal health, and also more recently on a broader portfolio of women's health medicines as well as diagnostics. We were founded back in 1989, so we're 35 plus years old. And over the last 15 years, we have been working at the intersection of product development, regulatory strategy, and market access. And we hold a strong track record in maternal health, working across a number of maternal health conditions, including preeclampsia and also postpartum hemorrhage. Particularly relevant for this audience, for the manufacturing community, we support manufacturers to navigate quality and regulatory pathways. We also work on product development, product improvement with manufacturers of generic medicines. We facilitate technology transfer and product optimization. And we do all this within the context of focusing on products being fit for purpose for low and middle income markets, or emerging markets, as you might be calling them in your organization. So we really act as a bridge between the public health priorities of our focus countries and the global sexual and reproductive health community and manufacturing realities. Through the Secure project, as I mentioned, we're going to be working closely with our partners, including CHAI, the Clinton Health Access Initiative, to engage directly with manufacturers, identify and address supply side barriers in the target countries of the program, and support the development of sustainable and scalable supply solutions. So you can go to the next slide, where I will go through the Supreme Secure project briefly. There's a lot to share, so there's a lot on this slide. Again, we'll also be sharing these slides as well alongside the recording. So please don't worry if you aren't able to take everything in right now. So Supreme Secure is a large consortium-led program representing a $50 million investment from Unitaid. SUPREME is an acronym. It stands for Sustained Uptake of Products for Preeclampsia and Maternal Anemia. And SECURE is also an acronym, and it stands for Sustaining Equitable Care and Universal Resources for Preeclampsia and Anemia. So this program is a 4-year project, it kicked off in January of this year, so it's running from 2026 to 2029. The consortium will tackle product access barriers at the global, regional, national, and community levels. There are 4 general project focus areas. These are generating evidence to address product-specific knowledge gaps to support market entry and introduction of new technologies. So this is the critical output that won't be directly linked to the manufacturer-specific activities, but will inform a lot of the market access planning. Output 2 is demand generation. So that's working on creating tools tailored for target populations to drive uptake of new and underused products. So really focusing on the advocacy side of demand generation in the target countries. Output 3 is the output that's focusing on product access, and this is where the manufacturer work with selected manufacturers will be taking place. And this output focuses on supporting development of new products, medicines and diagnostics to address supply side barriers, engaging directly with manufacturers, and also supporting ecosystem improvements. And then the 4th output is focusing on country adoption and scale up. So really ensuring that once the project's complete, this work is scalable, it's sustainable, it really leaves a footprint in each of the target countries. The target countries, which I've mentioned a few times but haven't actually listed, are Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, Senegal, and Tanzania. So this program is focused on key sub-Saharan African countries where preeclampsia and maternal anemia are primary causes of maternal mortality and morbidity. And the specific focus of today's session is low-dose aspirin. But you can see here on this slide that we're focusing on a basket of preeclampsia medicines. So if at your manufacturing organization you make any of the products that you see listed today, please note that alongside the aspirin RFP, we've just also released the magnesium sulfate RFP, and in about 2 to 3 months from now, we'll be releasing RFP requests for proposals for antihypertensives, which are labetalol, hydrazoline, nifedipine, and methyl-dopa. This program is also focusing on ferrous carboxymaltose or IV iron from a therapeutic standpoint. So again, if that is a product that your organization makes, Chai is leading that work stream and also will be releasing a request for proposals for that product. So you can move to the next slide. So this request for proposals is focused, as I've said, on selecting manufacturers to accelerate the development, registration, and supply of affordably priced, quality assured, low-dose aspirin, 75 milligrams, specifically compliant with climatic zone 4B stability needs. So the indication for this product, while that it's off-label, is prevention of preeclampsia. So to be prescribed to mothers during pregnancy to prevent onset of preeclampsia and eclampsia. The RFP itself consists of 2 documents. So if you're attending this information session, you've probably already downloaded these documents. It's just sort of large 14, 15-page PDF document that is a full background to the program and to the purpose of this RFP, and also instructions on how to apply. Please note that the PDF document also includes some annexes, which are forms that each manufacturer wishing to submit a proposal needs to complete and include in their proposal. The other document that's included in the RFP is an Excel-based questionnaire, and this is a questionnaire that all manufacturers have to respond to as completely as you can, and include in your proposal when you send it in. So you can go to the next slide. So under this program, what does collaboration look like? As Alessandra mentioned in her opening remarks, we really see this, this program is not about making new molecules, developing new drugs. The tools to addressing these supply side gaps exist today. They're medicines that have been developed for decades, that have been available for decades. So it's really about finding the right partners that we can work with and collaborate with to address the gaps in access in target countries. So we really see this as a two-way street. That is founded on mutual effort between partners, trust, and shared benefits. Recognizing that for some manufacturers, it'll be the first time we're partnering, so there is a process of building that trust, um, requiring active contribution from both sides. But we hope to see proactive partnerships with open communication, shared responsibility, and a wish to achieve common goals. So you can go to the next slide. So what can manufacturers expect from collaborating with us and from joining this program? So here we've listed contributions that will come from both Concept Foundation and the Clinton Health Access Initiative. Um, Specifically for preeclampsia medicines, we'll be providing Concept Foundation will be providing expert technical assistance to selected manufacturers. This will depend on what the need is, so it will differ from manufacturer to manufacturer, but it could be to support some late-stage product development, formulation optimization, analytical method development, or it could be focused more on regulatory strategy, dossier preparation, and submission and support on quality management systems. CHAI will be supporting the project by providing target country market intelligence. CHAI have a very strong footprint in the target countries. So they are in the process of assessing the market. And going forward, we'll be bringing critical market intelligence and knowledge to be able to support questions around volumes, pricing, etc. Another key contribution from our side is financial support. We're not able to provide millions, but we have a small bucket of financial incentive that we can offer to selected manufacturers. These funds can be used to support registrations in target countries, potentially to offset late-stage development costs, as I mentioned, or could support PQ fees. Again, depending on the need of the manufacturer, and this is something that we'll discuss and negotiate with manufacturers as we go through the process. So if you can just go back one more slide, Caroline, and I'll just finish up on what we expect from selected manufacturers, going back to that two-way street. So we expect in the short term, as we go through this process, once we've selected manufacturers, we expect manufacturers to receive a team on site to conduct a GMP assessment. That will be a requirement at some stage in the project, probably this year, potentially early next year. We also expect manufacturers to allow us to undertake a financial forensic audit just to ensure that there is financial soundness coming from partner manufacturers. We also expect manufacturers to work closely with the Concept Foundation team, so stay in close communication and work together on key factors like access pricing and regulatory strategy. And part of that will require allocation of sufficient time and resources to engaging with the program over the next 2, 3 to 4 years. We hope and expect to see transparent and respectful communications, and candidate manufacturers, there needs to be a willingness on the part of the manufacturers to be interested in sustainable supply to target markets. You can go to the next slide now. Thanks. So as I mentioned earlier on, the overall application process, we try to keep it as simple as possible, but also as detailed as possible to allow us to make fair selections. So what does a good proposal look like? It is a completed RFP questionnaire, the Excel document. Please try to complete this as much as you can. There will be a possibility for us to ask for missing information, but if there's too much missing information, that could potentially mean that proponents don't make it through screening. We will be doing an initial screening of all proposals to check for completeness of the forms that have to be submitted and the Excel questionnaire. And incomplete applications will likely not be processed past screening. So the three forms that need to be signed and submitted are a declaration form, a quality audit agreement, so specifically agreeing to receive a team on site in the future, and then also a signed form to confirm you're willing to undertake a financial forensics audit. So that's Form A, B, and C. The RFP deadline is Friday, the 5th of June at midnight UTC. And I must stress that late entries will not be considered, so please keep this timeline in mind. In terms of how we will be moving through the selection process, as I mentioned, we will be doing an initial screening of the submitted proposals, and then we will move forward. Those proposals for manufacturers that have passed screening will then be evaluated against set eligibility criteria that speaks directly to the questionnaire. So we will be scoring each proposal against the answers to the questionnaire in the Excel sheet. So please also keep that in mind as the questionnaire is being answered, and try and include as much complete and accurate information as you can. And if you don't have specific answers to the questions, please explain why or what it is that is preventing you from providing that information, and if it's going to be feasible to access that information in future. We encourage you to provide some information rather than none at all. So we will be aiming to shortlist manufacturers following our evaluation, and these manufacturers will be invited to one-to-one meetings to further discuss the proposal and discuss any key gaps. A key point we need to make is that the one-on-one meetings that shortlisted manufacturers will be invited to will be observed by a member of an independent review panel that has been set up to oversee the RFP process, ensure that it is compliant with Unitaid and key regulations. And this is really to ensure a fair and transparent process is maintained. It aligns with the overall approach we're taking in terms of ensuring all the questions and answers are available, and that we've provided information through this session and things like that. Manufacturers participating in the one-on-one meetings will have an opportunity after these meetings to submit an updated final proposal, which will reflect what was discussed during the one-on-one meeting. The evaluation of each proposal will be done by an evaluation committee that will be set up within Concept Foundation, comprising 2 technical team members and 1 program team member. And this committee will be who determines final award selections. And the final selection of manufacturers will be contingent upon manufacturers successfully passing the quality and financial audit. So this will be a condition of forward agreements that we'll be signing with manufacturers. We do plan to sign supplier agreements with all selected manufacturers, and the overall timeline for this is aiming for October. So just keep that in mind, as it's not an end goal, but it's an important milestone for the final stage of this selection process. Right, you can go to the next slide. So I've already covered most of the information in this slide, but I just wanted to call out some specific pieces relating to aspirin, and also give an overall overview of the criteria that we'll be evaluating proposals against. So in terms of technical criteria, we'll be looking at manufacturing capability and capacity, the active pharmaceutical ingredient that you're using, any product development plans for any late stage development that may need to happen to push you towards quality assurance if you don't already hold quality assurance. The strategy for regulatory submission and bioequivalent study, again, if that's relevant. Some of these may not be relevant to you and your organization and your products. Specifically for aspirin, we require Zone 4B stability data for product to be available in these countries, in the target countries. So if that data is not available, we're still accepting applications or proposals for manufacturers that don't have the data, but we need to understand what your plan is to and timeline is to generate this data. We're also looking at prior experience of supplying the target markets, quality track record, and the overall timeline that we would be looking at to bringing products to market. On the financial side, we're looking a really strong criteria for us is access pricing. So ensuring that access pricing proposed by the manufacturer and the associated terms and supply conditions so for example, minimum order quantity, things like that, and lead times for product to be available. Manufacturers are also invited to provide a pricing schedule related to procurement volumes and or economies of scale. So you can go to the next slide, Caroline. So I think this is my final info slide. This table's directly from the RFP, so you can always refer back to it, but just to call out some specific key dates that are coming up. So about 2.5 weeks from now, we have a deadline for bidders to submit questions. These questions after today's session can only be submitted by email. We've set up an RFP specific email address that's included in all of the communications. You can see it on our website. It's also on the last slide that we'll share. So you're welcome to submit as many questions as you have, and they can come in one email, they can come in multiple. It's really up to you how you engage with us, but it needs to be through that email address, and the deadline for sending questions is the 26th of May. That then gives us a few days to collate and anonymize all questions and post them publicly, which we're planning to do on the 29th of May so that everyone has access to the same information. And then about 1 week later, the proposal submission deadline will fall on the 5th of June. Following the submission deadline, we will be working rapidly through the month of June to evaluate the proposals and notify shortlisted manufacturers by early July, on the 3rd of July. And then for a period of 2 weeks in July, we'll be inviting selected shortlisted manufacturers for one-on-one meetings. And this is the meeting I mentioned that will be sat in on by an independent review panel member. Following that meeting, manufacturers will be invited to revise their proposal as needed, and the deadline for this will be the 31st of July. We'll then be working through August to finalize our manufacturer selection and notify those manufacturers either that they haven't been selected or that they have. And as I mentioned, following this, we'll be looking to sign supplier agreements, which will stipulate specific conditions around on-site audit and access pricing and the financial forensic review as well. Please do note that these timelines are indicative and subject to change. And if these do change, we will be letting bidders know. I think that concludes the information we wanted to share. If you want to go to the final slide, thanks. So as I've mentioned a few times, we'll be adding any questions that come up in this session as well to the Q&A document. The email that you can use to submit your questions to is here on the slide. It's rfp_tx@conceptfoundation.org. We won't be able to accept any telephone inquiries or WhatsApp or text questions. And also, I want to stress that Unitaid and consortium partners and others will not be able to respond to RFP-related inquiries. They all need to come through Concept Foundation. So I think with that, I will conclude the presentation, and we will open up the floor for questions if we have any. I'm just going to check on the Q&A to see if any have been shared.
There's one which has been shared on the chat.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah, so the question is from Jim Lu. How many candidates could be selected as partners of CHAI to produce the low-dose aspirin? That's question one. Question two, how much will it be total consumption of low-dose aspirin in the next 5 years as estimated by the market survey conducted?
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you for the questions. So the first question, we currently expect to identify one manufacturer per product category. However, we are flexible to that being more than one, depending on different conditions that may come up over the next few months of the selection process. So typically, it will depend on, as I said, certain factors. So it could be that we end up with more than one manufacturer for each product category. It will also depend on how things are looking across the overall basket of therapeutics in terms of ensuring that we have enough coverage and enough sort of manufacturer diversity. So I know that's not a specific answer, but I can't categorically say that we'll only be selecting one. If it's not one, it will be maximum two. So the second question, which was a question we were expecting, and I think most of you coming from manufacturing organizations will be the main question you're asking in terms of what the total volume consumption of low-dose aspirin is projected to be in the target countries over the next 5 years. We are actively working in the countries to gather as much market intelligence as possible to answer this question, but also make some fair estimates because we won't be able to capture the full market right now. That's one of the primary issues around the access barriers in these countries, meaning there's a lack of visible data around total demand and total expected volumes. So part of this program is to improve access to that information and better quantify the markets. So we'll be working closely with manufacturers on this piece to understand what the minimum maximum order quantities are for manufacturers to commit to access pricing. And we are expecting to be able to share some provisional numbers during the one-on-one meetings when we progress further on in the process. So right now, we're not comfortable with sharing big numbers because they could change, but we do plan to share detailed information with shortlisted manufacturers as we move through the process. We can detail this a little bit more as well in the Q&A document. I already see, Caroline, the next question that's come on PQ. So this is a great question, and I probably didn't stress it enough in the information shared. We are looking for products that are either WHO pre-qualified or are very close to being able to achieve WHO pre-qualification, or looking for products approved by a WHO listed authority, which the terminology used to be Stringent Regulatory Authority or SRA. So we're looking for products that it doesn't have to be WHO pre-qualification. That's not an absolute requirement. We just want to see a level of quality assurance that is aligned with either WHO PQ or WHO listed authority. And we've been careful not to stipulate that as a sole requirement because we recognize that some manufacturers may not yet have this approval, but could be close to achieving it, as I mentioned. So that's one of the areas of technical assistance that we can provide, assuming the timelines are fitting with the overall timeline of the project and that we can work together to achieve that goal. It's a possibility and something that we can discuss with manufacturers. As mentioned, this program is it's a 3 to 4 year program, and the end goal is to see quality assured, affordable products registered in the 5 target countries. So the timelines are tight, so we can't consider manufacturers that have a longer pathway, at least not under this program. That is something that Concept Foundation and CHAI can work on more broadly, but not within this program. So hopefully that's a clear answer on the PQ. I'm just reading the next question. So on the basis of no available data on aspirin, yeah, I think exactly. So if you don't have, I'm assuming to clarify this question, specifically around the Zone 4B stability data, we would like as much information as you can share on your product as it stands today and what the forward pathway and plan, including timeline, would be to generate any missing data. So just seeing the most recent question on weighting. Yes, that's an excellent question. So in terms of pricing versus regulatory capability versus manufacturing readiness to be part of the selection process, this is at this point in time, I think we're looking at an equal weighting in terms of technical readiness is just as important as regulatory capability as is access pricing. So we're not giving any strong weighting to either. We need to see all of these criteria being met, essentially. So I don't see any more questions coming in, which is completely fine, as we don't expect everyone to be ready to ask questions right now or willing to, and that's why we've set up the Q&A function through the RFP email address. So I encourage you all to utilize that channel. And if we don't have any further questions, then we can go ahead and close the session for today. And as I said, we'll be making the recording and the presentation available on the RFP site. I would just like to extend, I see one more question's come in. So again, when it comes to, so the question for everyone, if you haven't seen it, from a manufacturer that's intending to launch R&D for aspirin, it really depends on the timelines and the resources you have internally to move this along. So if you think the timelines potentially fit, we absolutely encourage you to submit to the RFP and share as much information as you can on your plans for developing aspirin and what the timelines are. So I will wait a couple more minutes just to see if there are any more questions coming in from the audience. And if not, we can move to closing. All right, then I will once again express my thanks to everybody who took the time to join this info session. We hope it was helpful and provided more context to the documents that were shared. We look forward to receiving your proposals if you're planning to submit, and receiving your questions in the meantime, and hopefully we can answer them as best we can, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Goodbye.